The door swung open. Smooth. Silent. Like magic, really. Alex stepped out onto the sun-drenched pavement. The car gleamed behind him. A ridiculous car, if he was honest. Bright red. Low to the ground. It probably cost more than his old flat. More than his parents' house, even. He felt a bit silly, but also a bit like a superhero. This was it. Day one. His grand experiment. Could a week change everything? He hoped so. He really did. He adjusted the collar of his brand new shirt. It felt different. Expensive. He wasn't used to expensive. His usual look was more comfortable. Lived in, you might say. This shirt felt like it was judging his posture, making him stand taller. The valet rushed forward. All smiles and sir. Alex fumbled for a tip. A big one. He'd read about this part. Act like you belong. That was the key, wasn't it? He tried to look nonchalant, like he did this every single day. The city air hummed around him. A different kind of hum. Not the usual drone of traffic. This was a hum of possibility, of excitement. He could feel eyes on him. Curious eyes. Maybe envious ones. It was a strange feeling, like being on a stage. He took a deep breath. The air smelled of expensive perfume and opportunity. He walked towards the grand hotel entrance. Each step felt heavy, but also light. This was a new world. His world, for 7 short days. He thought about his tiny apartment. The leaky tap. The view of a brick wall. It felt a million miles away now. This street was lined with impossible glamour. Shops with names he could barely pronounce. People who looked like they'd never seen a budget. And here he was. Alex, from nowhere special. About to walk into the heart of it all. He clutched the keys to the rented beast. They felt surprisingly warm in his hand. A little piece of borrowed power. Just for a little while. The hotel lobby was enormous, like a palace. Marble floors gleamed. So shiny he could see his nervous face. Chandeliers dripped with crystals. They looked like frozen waterfalls. People glided. They didn't just walk. They spoke in hushed, important tones. Alex felt his scruffy trainers were screamingly out of place. But then he remembered. He wasn't wearing them. He was wearing new, polished leather shoes. Shoes that cost a fortune. He was part of this scene, or trying to be. His suit was next. Tailored. Dark blue. It felt like a second skin. A much, much richer skin. He'd never owned anything like it. His old suits were for weddings. Maybe a job interview if he was lucky. This suit was different. It whispered power. It suggested boardrooms and private jets. When he looked in the mirror, he barely recognized himself. The man looking back was confident, assured. He looked like he knew things, important things, secret things, perhaps. Checking in was a breeze. No cues for him. A special desk. "Welcome, Mr. Sterling," the receptionist said. Her smile was genuine. Or it seemed genuine. That was his new name for the week. Mr. Alexander Sterling. It sounded important, didn't it? He signed the forms with a flourish, using a heavy gold-plated pen they provided. His hand didn't even shake. Much. The room key was a sleek card. His passport to another life. He felt a thrill run down his spine. The room. Oh, the room. It was bigger than his entire flat. Easily. A huge bed piled high with pillows. A view that stretched across the entire city. Skyscrapers like glittering jewels. He walked to the window. Looked down at the tiny cars. The tiny people. He felt a long way from the ground. A long way from his old life. He wondered if he could get used to this. This feeling of being above it all. He suspected he could. Very easily, in fact. The personal stylist was named Celeste. Of course she was. She had impossibly chic hair, and an accent he couldn't quite place. But it sounded expensive. She didn't ask what he liked. She told him what he liked, or what Mr. Sterling would like. Racks of clothes appeared. Silks, cashmeres, linens, colors he'd never dared to wear. "This, darling, is you," she'd declare, holding up a jacket that probably cost a month's rent. He just nodded, smiled. Tried to look like he understood fashion. They brought him champagne. In the middle of the afternoon. Tiny sandwiches with no crusts. It was surreal. Shopping wasn't usually like this. Usually it involved wrestling with clothes in a tiny changing room, under harsh fluorescent lights, feeling a bit frumpy. This was different. This was an event. a performance. He was the star, and Celeste was his very enthusiastic director. He bought things, lots of things. He didn't even look at the price tags. Mr. Sterling wouldn't, would he? Dinner was on a rooftop. So high, the city spread out like a carpet of stars. The air was cool, the music was soft. Candles flickered on the table. He ordered things he couldn't pronounce. The waiter explained them patiently, reverently almost. Each dish arrived like a work of art. Tiny portions, intense flavors. He ate slowly, savored every bite. This wasn't just food. This was an experience. He felt sophisticated, worldly, like a character in a film. He watched the other diners, the beautiful people. They laughed easily. Their jewelry sparkled. They seemed to belong here, effortlessly. He wondered what they talked about. Did they talk about normal things? Or was their conversation as rarefied as the air up here? He sipped his wine. It tasted like sunshine and berries. He felt a sense of calm, a sense of rightness. This was good. This was very, very good. He was starting to believe he was Mr. Sterling. The parties were something else. Exclusive, they called them. You couldn't just walk in. You needed a name, a face, or in his case, the right suit, and the aura of someone who belonged. He'd arrive in his flashy car. The doors would just open. Velvet ropes would part. Like the Red Sea, but with more bouncers. He'd walk in, cool, calm, collected. Or so he hoped he appeared. Inside, it was a different universe. Pulsating music, flashing lights, a sea of beautiful, confident people. People noticed him. They really did. They'd catch his eye, smile. Sometimes they'd approach him, ask him what he did. He'd mumble something vague, something about investments, international business. It sounded impressive. They'd nod, seem suitably impressed. He learned that confidence was key. If you acted like you owned the place, people assumed you did. Or that you could, if you wanted to. It was a strange kind of magic, the magic of perception. He found himself in conversations, with artists, with entrepreneurs, with people whose names he sometimes recognized from magazines. They were charming, witty. They made him feel charming and witty too. Was it the champagne? Or was it the clothes? Or was it just the atmosphere? He wasn't sure, but he liked it. He liked being seen. He liked being admired. For a week, he wasn't just Alex. He was someone interesting, someone important. He danced. He laughed. He clinked glasses. He felt like he was floating. This world was intoxicating, addictive even. He saw how easy it would be to get lost in it, to believe this was real, that these connections were real. He knew deep down it was an illusion, a beautiful, glittering illusion. But for now, he was happy to play along, to be part of the dream, just for a little while longer. He was, after all, Mr. Sterling, and Mr. Sterling belonged. Then came the flip side, the other part of the experiment. Alex shed his Sterling skin. No more designer suit, no more gleaming shoes. He put on his old jeans, his comfortable, slightly faded t-shirt, and his worn trainers. He looked in the mirror. This was him, the everyday Alex, the one who counted his pennies, the one who usually took the bus. He felt normal, and a little bit nervous about what was coming next. He knew it wouldn't be the same. He walked back to that grand hotel, the one with the marble floors and the crystal chandeliers. He tried to stroll into the lobby casually, just to look around, maybe sit for a moment. He didn't even make it past the entrance. A stern-looking man in a uniform stopped him, politely but firmly. "Can I help you, sir?" he asked. The sir sounded different this time, not respectful, more like a question, a challenge. Alex mumbled something about meeting someone. The man's eyes scanned him. Up, down, dismissive. "I'm afraid the lobby is for guests only," the man said. His voice was flat, final. There was no smile this time, no offer of assistance, just a polite barrier. Alex felt a flush creep up his neck. He was invisible, or worse, he was an inconvenience. Someone who didn't fit, someone to be managed, moved along. He remembered walking through these same doors just days before, as Mr. Sterling. He'd been greeted with smiles, with deference. Now, nothing, just a polite, firm rejection. He turned and walked away. The sun still shone, the city still hummed, but it felt different now, colder, sharper. He felt a knot in his stomach. It wasn't anger, exactly. More like a heavy disappointment. A sudden, stark understanding. The clothes weren't just clothes. The car wasn't just a car. They were keys. They were signals. Without them, he was just another face in the crowd. An anonymous nobody. The contrast was brutal. It was like a punch to the gut. Quiet, but painful. Section 6. Echoes of dismissal. The sting of being unseen. He decided to try the rooftop restaurant, the one with the starlit views and the tiny, exquisite food. He remembered the feeling of sophistication, of belonging. He walked in, wearing his ordinary clothes. The hostess at the entrance looked up. Her smile faltered. Just for a second, but he saw it. He asked for a table for one. "Do you have a reservation?" she asked. Her tone was professional, but cool, very cool. He said he didn't. He hadn't needed one as Mr. Sterling. She tapped on her computer, frowned a little. "I'm so sorry," she said, not sounding sorry at all. "We're fully booked this evening." He glanced around. He could see empty tables, several of them, gleaming under the soft lights, waiting. "Oh," he said, "are you sure?" She gave him a tight, professional smile. "Quite sure, sir." There was that sir again. The one that made him feel small, unimportant. He knew, he just knew. If he'd been wearing the suit, a table would have magically appeared. He thanked her, turned to leave. He felt a strange mix of emotions. Embarrassment, a little bit of anger now, and a deep, hollow sadness. It was so blatant, so obvious. The rules were different, depending on how you looked, depending on what you wore. He walked out onto the street. The evening air felt heavy. He looked up at the restaurant, saw the flickering candles, heard the faint murmur of conversation, the clinking of glasses. He was outside, looking in, a world away. He started walking, no destination in mind, just walking, trying to process it. The city lights blurred a little. Was it really that simple? That superficial? A good suit and a fancy car? That was the password? It seemed ridiculous. But he'd seen it. He'd felt it. The warmth of acceptance and the cold sting of dismissal. Both in the same places. From the same people. All because of what he was wearing. Or not wearing. It was a harsh lesson. A very, very harsh lesson. Section 7. City Lights and Shadows. A walk of contemplation. The city streets felt different now. Not just playgrounds of the rich, but a complex tapestry, woven with all kinds of lives. He saw a group of young people laughing, sharing cheap pizza on a park bench. They seemed happy, genuinely happy. He saw a street musician playing a soulful tune on a saxophone. A few coins lay in his open case. He played like his life depended on it. Maybe it did. Alex watched him for a while. The music was beautiful, raw, real. He passed by the gleaming shop windows again, the ones where Celeste had waved her magic wand. The clothes in the window looked like museum pieces, untouchable. He remembered the feeling of the cashmere, the silk. It was nice, sure. But was it that important? Did it define a person? He was starting to think not, or at least he hoped not. He saw a homeless man huddled in a doorway, invisible to most of the passers-by. They just hurried past, eyes straight ahead. The contrast was everywhere. The glittering towers of wealth, and the shadows in the alleys. The laughter from expensive restaurants, and the silence of those with nothing. He felt like he was seeing the city for the first time. Really seeing it. Not just the surface gloss, but the layers underneath. The struggles, the joys, the quiet acts of kindness, the casual cruelty. It was all there, all mixed together. A messy, complicated, beautiful, heartbreaking reality. He thought about Mr. Sterling, that confident, admired man. Was he real, or just a costume? And who was Alex? The one who got ignored? Or the one who felt a pang of sadness for the homeless man? The one who appreciated the street musician? He was both, he supposed. But the experiences of the past few days had shifted something inside him. A fundamental understanding of value, of worth. It wasn't about the price tag. He was sure of that now, or at least he was beginning to be. Section 8. Rooftop solitude, searching for meaning above the noise. He didn't go back to the fancy hotel that night. Not straight away. Instead, he found a different rooftop, the one on top of his own modest apartment building. It wasn't glamorous, just a flat, graveled space. a few plastic chairs left by other tenants, a discarded plant pot. But the view was still there. The city spread out before him, a million twinkling lights, each light a story. A life. It was vast, overwhelming even, but also strangely peaceful. He sat on one of the plastic chairs. It wobbled a bit. He didn't mind. The air was cooler up here. The sounds of the city were muffled. A distant siren, the rumble of a late-night train. He looked out at the glittering skyline, those towers of power and wealth. They seemed different from this perspective, less intimidating, more just buildings, steel and glass, concrete and ambition. He thought about the people inside them. Were they happy? Truly happy? He remembered the feeling of admiration. When he was Mr. Sterling, it had been intoxicating. Like a drug, he'd felt important, special. But was it real admiration? Or were they just admiring the suit, the car, the illusion of wealth? He thought about the dismissive looks, the polite rejections when he was just Alex. That had stung, deeply. It made him feel worthless, small. But was he worthless? Just because he didn't have a fancy suit or a fat wallet? He stayed there for a long time, just thinking, watching the city breathe. The week had been a roller coaster, high highs, low lows. It had shown him two different worlds, or rather, two different ways the world saw him. It was confusing, unsettling. He had set out to understand wealth, to experience it. But what had he really learned? The question hung in the night air, heavy, expectant. He felt a shift inside him, a new understanding beginning to dawn. Section 9. The True Currency, Beyond the Glitter and Gold. As the first hint of dawn touched the sky, Alex felt a sense of clarity. It wasn't about the money, not really. Or at least, not just about the money. The cars, the clothes, the fancy dinners. They were nice, fun even, for a while, but they were just things. Props on a stage. The real power of wealth, he realized, wasn't just in owning those things. It was about the freedom it could buy. Freedom from worry, freedom to choose, freedom to make a difference. That seemed more important. The way people treated him when he was Mr. Sterling, that attention, that respect. It was seductive, yes, but it was also hollow, based on an image, not on who he truly was. The people who admired Mr. Sterling didn't know Alex. They didn't know his dreams, his fears, his slightly goofy laugh. They only saw the shine. And when the shine was gone, so was their interest. That wasn't real connection. That wasn't genuine respect. It was a transaction, a performance. True wealth, he started to think, was something different. It was about relationships built on trust, not on status. It was about kindness, empathy, the ability to see beyond the surface, to connect with people on a human level, regardless of what they wore or what car they drove. It was about having a purpose, something that mattered more than just accumulating more stuff. The week had shown him the allure of the billionaire lifestyle, but it had also shown him its emptiness, its potential for isolation. He stood up, stretched. The city was waking up below. A new day. His experiment was over. He wasn't Mr. Sterling anymore. He was just Alex. And somehow that felt okay. More than okay. He felt lighter. He had tasted the high life. He had felt the sting of being invisible. And through it all, he had found something more valuable than all the money in the world. A clearer understanding of himself. And what truly mattered. The real currency wasn't cash. It was connection. It was character. It was compassion.